The wind came down from the mesa like a ghost, dragging the red dust of Utah's high desert with it. Jed Harlan stood in the doorway of his cabin, a battered Stetson shadowing his face, and watched the horizon bleed into dusk. He lit his pipe without hurry. The land gave no reason to rush. It hadn't for years. Nothing moved across those rocks but wind and memory. Until today. A horse crested the rise, black, limping, lathered with sweat. Its rider slumped low, a figure more shadow than woman, barely clinging to the saddle horn. Jed narrowed his eyes. The rider didn't belong. Too clean-cut to be a drifter, too broken to be a soldier. She collapsed 10 feet from the fence, sliding off the saddle like spilled water. Jed didn't call out. He moved slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. Closer now. He saw her face was streaked with dirt and dried blood, her eyes glazed but alert, watching him even as she tried not to. "You gonna kill me?" she rasped. Jed shook his head. "Ain't in the business." She passed out before he reached her. He carried her inside careful, like she was made of glass, and laid her on the old cot by the hearth. The fire was low, so he stoked it up. She was fever-hot, but not from sickness. Exhaustion, fear, something deeper. He didn't ask questions. Not yet. When she woke, she sat up fast, a blade in her hand before she was even fully conscious. Jed didn't flinch, just sipped coffee and gestured at the plate of beans on the table. "Don't need names," he said. "But if you're running, you ran far." She eyed him a long time, like weighing whether he was worth a lie. Then she nodded once. "Anna Mae," she said. Jed gave her a look that said he didn't believe her, but he didn't argue. Jed, that was all. She ate like someone who hadn't touched food in 2 days, which, judging by her eyes, might have been true. Her coat was too big for her frame, and the boots on her feet had northern military stitching. Unusual on a woman, especially out here. But Jed knew better than to ask a question unless he could stand the answer. Later, while she slept, he checked her horse. Saddle worn, bridle cracked, the animal just about done. Whatever she was running from, it wasn't close behind. Yet, at midnight, Jed woke to the sound of the floorboards creaking. He reached quietly for his rifle, but didn't move. Through half-lidded eyes, he saw her standing by the hearth, turning his rifle over in her hands. Not stealing. Inspecting. "You shoot?" he asked. She didn't startle. "Just set the rifle down." "Well enough," she said. "Soldier." No, a pause. "Not anymore." She sat back by the fire. He watched her. The way her shoulders stayed tense even in stillness, like she expected danger to walk through the walls. Her eyes were clearer now, though rimmed in shadow. "You picked a strange place to run to," he said. She looked at him, and something flickered, recognition, maybe, or the echo of a memory. "I didn't pick it," she murmured. "My horse did, but it feels familiar." He nodded slowly, eyes on the flames. "Land does that. Holds on to folks longer than it should." They didn't speak after that. Just silence and wind and fire crackle. The next morning, Jed found her standing at the edge of the canyon behind the cabin, looking out at the red cliffs like they were speaking to her. He handed her coffee. She took it without a word. "This place got a name?" she asked. "Locals call it Devil's Draw. Old tribe said it was cursed. White men came, tried to farm it. None stayed long." She nodded like she already knew. That day passed quiet. She helped him mend a fence like she'd done it 100 times. Her hands knew the work. She moved like someone who used to have a home. That night, she dreamed loud. Words spilled from her mouth, half-formed and raw. "They'll come. They want the deed under the cellar. Their blood's still there." Jed sat by the fire, watching her twist in sleep, piecing together what little she gave away. The third day, she started to settle, eating better, sleeping deeper. Jed thought maybe she'd leave soon. He'd seen it before. People drifted through the frontier like wind through grass, rarely stayed, never returned. But that evening, she stared long at the ground under the hearth, then at the canyon again. Her fingers trembled when she held her cup. "You ever find bones out here?" she asked suddenly. Jed didn't answer right away. He stared into his mug. "Years back," he said. "Posse rode through after a ranch got burned down. Found what was left. Family wiped out. Some say a girl escaped. No one knew for sure. Her face was unreadable, but her grip on the mug turned white. I remember fire, she said softly, and men laughing. Jed said nothing. She stood and walked to the door, stopping just before stepping out. I think I've been here before, she said, and then she was gone, lost to the wind and the canyon light, leaving Jed in the quiet. He stared at the floor beneath his feet, the old boards, the cold stone beneath them, and for the first time in 20 years, he wondered if the land he lived on was soaked in more than just silence. Jed Harlan woke to the scent of coffee already brewing and the sound of boots pacing the porch. He stepped outside and found Anna. No, not Anna. Leaning against a post, eyes locked on the distant horizon. The sun was barely up, but she was dressed and armed, Jed's old revolver strapped tight to her side. He said nothing at first, just stood beside her and followed her gaze. The mesa stretched out before them in silence, but something in the wind had shifted. "You're not just passing through," he said. She didn't answer, but her hand tightened on the railing. "I've been thinking," he continued, voice low. "That name you gave, Anna May, it don't fit you." She looked at him then, hard eyes under a brow furrowed by years of grit and loss. "I stopped using my real name a long time ago." Jed nodded, as if that made all the difference. In truth, it explained everything. Later, they sat near the fire, and she finally began to talk. Not all at once, just pieces, like stones unearthed from dry earth. "My family had a ranch out here," she said. "Langley Homestead, 20 years ago." Jed's pipe went still in his mouth. "I remember it," he said after a long silence. "Went up in smoke. Locals said it was the Corvin boys. No one ever paid. They came at night," she said, voice flat. "Said the land was owed to them. My father argued. They shot him. My mother screamed. They shot her too. I hid in the root cellar. Thought they'd hear my heartbeat." Jed looked at her hands, scarred, steady. She had the bearing of someone who'd built herself out of the ashes. "I thought you died," he murmured. "I did," she said. "The girl who lived here did." She stood and walked to the hearth, resting her palm against the old stones beneath the floor. "My father buried the deed here," she said. "Said if anything happened, it'd still be ours. I came back for it." Jed's voice was rough. "And now they're coming too." She turned. "Breck Corvin isn't dead. He's coming back to finish what he started." Jed nodded slowly. "Saw dust on the ridge last night. 5 riders. One of them held himself like a wolf." "Breck," she said. "He always rode like he owned the earth." That afternoon, they walked the canyon trail in silence. The land hummed around them, stones shifting, birds lifting from the brush like they too sensed what approached. Jed showed her the old trails he used to watch, the ones that curled around Devil's Draw and led to nowhere but cliff. She listened, memorizing, like someone preparing for war. "Why'd you stay out here?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. "Then, because I failed. We all did. When we found your place, there was nothing left to bury right." "You buried them anyway," she said. "I saw from the trees. You and one other man." Jed's eyes met hers. "I didn't know you were alive," he said. "I wasn't. Not really." They returned to the cabin as dusk bled across the cliffs. Jed checked his rifle, set traps near the barn, and poured lamp oil along the path. Not much, just enough to delay a fast approach. Anna sat at the table cleaning bullets with quiet precision. "What'll you do if you get the deed?" he asked. She didn't look up. "I don't want the land. Just justice." He studied her face, the lines drawn by time and fire, and saw something beneath it. Not hatred, but purpose. Old and heavy. At sunset, the riders arrived. Jed spotted them first, silhouettes against the red sky. 5 horses moving with menace. No banners, no pretense. The lead rider wore a wide black hat and a coat dark with dust and blood. "Breck Corvin." "They found us," Jed said. Anna nodded once. No fear in her eyes, only memory. The gang stopped at the outer fence. Breck raised a hand, grinning like he smelled smoke. "Well, well," he called out. "This place still stands." Jed stepped onto the porch. "Ain't much, but it's mine." Breck chuckled. Not for long. We're looking for a woman came through this way. Young. Black hair. Might have been riding a worn-out gelding. Only visitors I get are vultures and wind, Jed said. You sure? Breck asked. 'Cause she's got something that belongs to me. Jed didn't blink. Not anymore. Breck leaned forward in the saddle. You always were stubborn. You always were a coward. Breck's eyes narrowed. He nodded once, then turned his horse. We'll be back tonight. They rode off, but not far. Inside, Anna reloaded the rifle. Her hands didn't shake. They'll circle wide, she said. Come at us from the dark. Let 'em come, Jed said. I got enough ghosts to keep me company. Outside, the last light died across the rocks. The canyon grew quiet, and somewhere in the dark, the land remembered what blood felt like. The dark came heavy, pressing down like a wool blanket soaked in old sweat. Jed stood at the edge of the porch, lantern turned low, rifle cradled in the crook of his arm. Behind him, Anna checked the lines, wire strung between posts, the trip trigger by the stable, the fire oil they'd soaked into the brush along the eastern path. She moved with the quiet focus of someone who'd already buried the version of herself that feared. The moon rose red through a curtain of clouds, thin as smoke. From the canyon's throat came no sound, no owl, no night bird, not even the rustle of wind. The land had gone still. Now or never, Jed muttered. Anna joined him, pistol holstered, Jed's old shotgun across her back. Her eyes were clear, but Jed caught the flinch in her fingers. Not fear. Anticipation. She had waited 2 decades to face the devil in her past. Now he was riding toward her with 4 guns and a grudge. They'll hit from the north ridge, she said. There's a game trail. Easy cover for an ambush. Jed nodded. I used it myself. But it's choked with thorn now. They'll come anyway. He looked at her sideways. You sure you're ready? She took a long breath. I don't get ready. I stay ready. Jed grunted approval and stepped off the porch. They split up, he taking the barn's west flank, she slipping toward the rocks above the cabin. Her feet made no sound across the earth. It didn't take long. A crack of movement echoed beyond the ridge. Then silence. Then the unmistakable creak of saddle leather, slow and sure, as the gang advanced. Jed crouched behind a pile of cut timber. He could see them now, figures in the gloom, rifles drawn, moving with the patience of seasoned predators. The first stepped into the open. Jed fired. The man crumpled without a cry, dropped like a sack of meat. The others scattered, one behind the corral, another ducking behind the wagon axle. The quiet shattered into war. From the rocks above, Anna fired down. Her first shot took a man through the throat. He gurgled and dropped, clutching at air. A second shot missed, but it pinned one behind a fence post. Jed moved, rolling to the trough, firing again. A bullet whined past his ear. Another struck the porch rail behind him, splintering wood. Anna advanced down the rocks, quick and low. Another outlaw rose to flank her, but too slow. Her third bullet caught him square in the chest. He tumbled backwards, eyes wide with the kind of surprise that came only once. 3 down. That left Breck and 1 more. Jed rose to fire, then saw the flash of a barrel. The shot rang out. Jed staggered back, hit in the shoulder. The world reeled. He dropped to 1 knee, rifle slipping from his fingers. Anna screamed. She broke cover, ran for Jed, but Breck was already moving. He came out from behind the barn, revolver raised, grin wide and full of old sins. You again, he called. Little Langley girl. Anna drew her last bullet and fired. Breck flinched, but the shot grazed, not killed. He charged. They met at the center of the yard, and it wasn't gunfire that decided it. It was fists and fury. Breck tackled her, throwing her into the dirt. She twisted, kicked hard, and he howled. Jed tried to rise, vision spinning. The world was blood and dust. He saw Anna reach for the shotgun, but Breck struck her across the jaw. No more running. Breck snarled. You think hiding in this dirt changes what's owed? Anna spat blood. My father gave you nothing. You stole it. I claimed what I was promised. You killed a family for a piece of paper. And now I'll finish it. He raised his gun. Anna grabbed the broken lantern near her and slammed it into his chest. The flames caught instantly. Lantern oil on his coat from the brush trap, a spark from the shattered glass. Breck screamed as fire rolled over him. He staggered back, a figure aflame, arms flailing. The canyon watched in silence as he ran for the ridge, his body lighting the scrub around him like judgment. He didn't make it far. The fourth man tried to run. Anna dropped him with Jed's pistol. 2 shots, heart and head. Clean. Cold. Silence returned. Anna crawled to Jed, hands slick with blood. His eyes fluttered open, and he smiled through the pain. "You all right?" she whispered. "I'll live," he rasped. "You." She looked to the horizon, where Breck's body burned against the dawn, for the first time in 20 years. He chuckled, winced. "Remind me not to cross you." She laughed softly, then helped him to his feet. The cabin still stood. The canyon still breathed. But something in the land had changed, like a weight lifted, a secret spoken aloud at last. Later, as the sun rose, Anna stood over the hearth, digging with a spade. The earth gave way easily, as if it, too, remembered. She unearthed a rusted tin box. Inside the deed, Langley Homestead, stamped, legal, signed in her father's careful script. She stared at it a long while, then handed it to Jed. "Keep it," she said. "It's yours." "No," she said. "It was never about the land. Just the truth." Jed looked down at the paper, then at her. "What now?" Anna turned to the red cliffs. "I bury the past," she said. "Then I ride somewhere they don't know my name." And as she saddled the horse, blood on her coat, dust in her hair, Jed realized something. The land didn't forget. But maybe, just maybe, it could forgive. 3 days passed before the canyon knew peace again. The air, still thick with the smell of gunpowder and scorched earth, had settled into a silence not of dread, but of judgment fulfilled. Jed's shoulder was bound with cloth torn from an old curtain, and each step he took near the barn drew a wince. But he moved like a man who'd come out the other side of something rotten. Anna didn't speak much. She rose early, fed the horses, swept the porch, sat for hours watching the sky change colors above the rocks. Each motion was quiet, purposeful, like she was packing a life she never asked to return to. One morning, as smoke from the cooking fire curled into the sky, Jed approached her with a tin mug of coffee. She took it without a word, sipped once, and kept her gaze on the dirt trail winding out to the east. "You think they're gone for good?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Dead men don't ride twice." Jed chuckled at that. "Some ghosts try." She looked down at her hands, rubbed the thin scar on her wrist. "Then I'll bury them again." That evening they dug. Together. At the base of a cottonwood, Jed marked the graves of the 4 outlaws with nothing but flat stones. Anna placed no markers, just pressed the dirt firm with her boots and whispered something low under her breath. Names, maybe. A prayer, though not the kind a preacher would recognize. As the sun dipped low and set fire to the cliffs once more, Jed turned to her. "I saw you hesitate," he said. "When?" "After you opened that tin box. After you saw the deed." Anna didn't flinch. "I thought about keeping it. Raising the place again. Rebuilding. You still could." "No," she said. "The land remembers too much. The floorboards know the screams. The walls would creak with what happened here. I can't live where every shadow looks like my father dying." Jed looked away. "Sometimes I think the land wants us gone, like it belongs to itself, and we're just trespassers passing through." Anna tossed a twig into the fire. "Maybe, but not all of us leave the same footprints." A quiet settled between them, filled only by the chirring of insects and the pop of sap in the flames. "Where will you go?" he asked. "North, maybe. Montana. Heard there's ranches need hands. Maybe they'll hire a woman who shoots straighter than she talks." Jed grinned. "Could be they'll be the lucky ones." She stood, brushed the dust from her coat, and walked toward the edge of the ridge, where the land fell away into a sea of dust-colored hills. There she stopped. "I rode back to bury something," she said. "I thought it was my past, but it wasn't." Jed waited. "It was hate," she said. "I've carried it so long. I didn't know who I was without it. But the second I watched Breck burn, Heard him scream like my mother must have. I knew I couldn't carry it anymore. Jed nodded solemnly. What you did, what we did, it wasn't vengeance. It was justice. She turned, eyes softer now. Maybe that's what justice is. Not a gallows or a badge, but a hand steady enough to stop the rot. The next morning, she was gone. Left before sunrise, without a sound. Took only the horse, her pack, and the shotgun. On the porch, Jed found the deed rolled tight, with a note pinned through it. This place was never mine. But it's yours, if you want it. Give it peace. Give it better than we got. Yell. He sat there a long time, sun rising slow across the valley. The wind moved through the canyon like an old friend come calling again. And in that breeze, Jed heard something new. Not the echo of gunfire. Not the ghosts of what once was. But laughter. Faint. Like a child's. Maybe it was memory. Maybe it was something more. Jed stood and looked out over the land, eyes squinting against the light. The cabin stood silent. The graves were still. But beneath it all, the roots dug deep. And the earth, for the first time in a long while, felt willing to forgive. He walked back inside, unrolled the deed, and placed it under a stone on the hearth. Not because he wanted to own the land, but because he believed in keeping promises. And this one, this blood-soaked, fire-washed patch of canyon, it didn't belong to the dead anymore. It belonged to those who remembered and chose to stay.